All right, so we'll go ahead and get the ball rolling for today. So today's material is a little bit thin, so this might be one of our shorter webinars, but today we're going over employee maintenance and navigation. Specifically, we're going to be focusing on the new hire process and the way that that's changed just a tiny little bit. Most of you that are already familiar with how to go through this process aren't really going to be relearning anything today. It's just a new layout, looks a little bit different, and the structure has been altered. It looks totally different when you get started. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hire ourselves a fake employee here real quick. So the way to kick this process off is the same that it's always been. And you pull up your employee information page. You have this nifty little hire button up here in the top right-hand corner. We're going to go ahead and click that and get our process fired off. So right out of the gate, you're going to see this looks a lot different. Instead of cramming everything all on one page, it's now broken out into subsections and done in kind of like a wizard style format. So we're just going to start at the top and work our way through. So this first section of the wizard is just personal information for the employee, and basically the only info that you need to key in on this screen is their name. So we're going to go with my good buddy Andy example. Go ahead and get this started. And once we've got that keyed in, the wizard's going to move on to the next step for us. This is our address. And the city and state should autocomplete for you. And then our social security number for our employee is also going in here, as well as an email if we had one on hand, although that's not a required field, so we're just going to skip it real quick. The next section is base compensation, where we're defining how much our sample employee is going to get paid. This one has actually changed a little bit more than the others, to where the pencil icon and such that we're used to clicking in order to kind of unlock this widget to go in and set the number has disappeared / moved. The way that we work on this now is we're just going to pop over into here and click this add button. And then that's going to pop up a new little window that allows us to enter in the employee's base compensation. So we're going to go with $15 per hour, 2080 hours per year, full-time work year. All right, cool. So we'll save that. And then that's going to add us a new line that's going to state our new effective from date, which is effective today, what our rate is, and how that's going to filter out through onto the employee. So we'll go ahead and continue on to our next step. Taxes have also changed in terms of the way that the table is laid out here. It's broken down into subsections. So we have federal, state, local, and general in here. Most of us are only just going to use federal and state. But as you can see, these have been altered in such a way to where they also have the same kind of setting as the base compensation window did. So we'll just drop in here and add a new line. We are going to use the Form 2020 W-4. Filing status, 2 jobs, all of the same kind of standard W-4 settings that we're going to key in here. Oh, whoops. We need our effective from date. And then now we can see our current settings have been slotted in up here for our new employee. We're just going to go ahead, flip over into state, and do the same thing over here. Oh. Other settings, this is where we're going to be assigning profiles. So this is usually what was at the bottom section of the way that the current new hire screen is set up. So if they had different accrual plans, we'd pick one of these. benefits, pay calculations. If we had a salary employee, we would switch this to salaried. If you have multiple pay periods within your company, we could just designate which pay period they're going to be using here, as well as another salary switch here, and security, most importantly. If we have a manager that we're bringing on, we want to definitely apply the appropriate security profile, and we'll, along with any other required fields that are set on a company level. So for this example demo, we have default department is a required field. So we're going to go ahead and pick that. Key in our hire date. Move forward, and this final section of the wizard is usually pretty much always locked down. We don't really use any of this stuff. So we are pretty much done at this point. So we're going to go ahead and click Add Employee. And that is going to process real quick. And it's going to bring us right into our new employees page. So here we go. Here's Andy example, and we just can see all the information that we keyed in has been pulled into his profile the same way that it does currently. And then if we had to make any of those changes on a pre-existing employee, so say we have somebody that got a raise or somebody wants to file a new W-4, the way that we would change that in the new UI is going to be pretty much the same way that we changed it in the new hire process. Is we're just going to pull the employee up, which we're already in, jump down to their base compensation widget down here, and we're just going to click the plus icon to add a new line, the same way that we do currently. And this piece hasn't really changed. It just looks a little bit different. So we'll key in the new rates, key in the new effective from date, and then save and reapply rates. And then if we scroll down here, we can see our new pay rate is set and scheduled for our example employee. And a similar way to taxes. So we'll jump over into the payroll tab and do the same thing with their tax settings real quick. So this table here looks a lot more familiar compared to the way that it is currently. If we wanted to make any changes in here, we can just jump in and just go ahead and make those changes the way that we do currently. This one still hasn't really been altered very much. So everything that you know currently on how to update tax settings is still applicable here. I got a message asking how we can refresh the screen. You don't usually really need to. If there's anything that the system will do to prompt a screen refresh, it should do that itself. So like, for example, when we went in and we keyed in this new rate of pay out to the top of the screen, it asked us if we wanted to reapply rates, and we did. That reloaded the screen for us because that was an instance where it would have needed to do that. If you ever wanted to, for any other reason, your best option would be to just bounce out and back in. To just go back into employee information and pull up our employee over again. And here we are. But aside from that, most of the stuff on the employee page and most of the employee record hasn't really been altered. As you can see, the structure is very similar to what we have currently. We have our 2 rows of widgets that just kind of continue on down the page. Most of the functionality and appearance of those widgets hasn't been altered. Everything in here looks pretty familiar. Same thing with the other tabs. So I don't really anticipate you guys really feeling lost at all on the new employee record page. Most of this is just a look and feel change. But on the off chance that you guys had any issues, you guys can always let me know, give me a call. So with that out of the way, that was pretty much all that was tabled for today, is just going through that new hire process and touching on the new coat of paint on the employee record. So with that complete, did anybody have any questions, comments, concerns, thoughts? And if you did, you may have to unmute yourself because I went through and muted everybody before I started. I got a message on adding notes to the employee record. That's still done in a similar fashion to the way that it is before. We have an option up here on our blue button bar to just add a note to the employee. We'll drop in here and say, and we'll save that, bounce back out and in. And then now we have the view notes option. So we can click that and we can see that, hey, Jeremy was here earlier around 5/8 at around 10:15, and he left a note that said blank. And I can also add in another one if I wanted to. Any other questions or concerns?
Yes, hi Jeremy. Have you found out where the videos will be stored, that we can view them later?
Yeah, so we're planning on posting those up to either Vimeo or YouTube or both, one or the other. And currently the plan right now is that we're thinking about posting the full webinar recording in full, and also maybe trying to explore another option of trimming it down into kind of bite-sized pieces on individualized topics that you can go in and review as well. That's still currently being worked on, but I expect to have a lot more progress on that done by next week. Most of this should be online.
Okay, great. And also too, how many sessions, how many Fridays does this training last?
So currently we're scheduled all the way up until about the end of June. So our final date is scheduled for an open forum Q&A, and that is slotted in on 6/26 of June. However, given the fact that the date for the switch for the system has been moved out by our software provider, I'm not sure on when that's going to land. I touched base with them earlier this week to try and pry a date from them, but they don't really know yet. Depending on when that date is, we might want to do a second round of these if it's a little bit further out. Just because, you know, if the switch gets pushed out to November, we don't want to stop training you guys in June and then hold off on flipping the switch and, you know, having you guys change over cold and not as prepared as we would like.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.